Donna, another fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Where is this going?
Well, first of all, I agree with Governor Walz. It's time to de escalate this violence. I'm glad he did reach out to the White House. I'm glad that, you know, calmer, cooler heads might prevail. But look, this is a tragedy. Once again, an American citizen gunned down in the street by federal agents. Everyone who watched the video, you saw him. You saw him filming. You saw his other arm reach out to help somebody. He was tackled to the ground. This has to stop. There's a way to move forward, but the way moving forward is not with having ICE running around with impunity in residential neighborhoods.
And sir, this is the second time in just over 2 weeks where we've seen somebody killed by federal law enforcement in Minneapolis. And we have seen the head of the Department of Homeland Security go out and say the victim was a terrorist and describe a series of events that are not seen on video. What is this doing to the credibility of the federal government?
Yeah, I mean, you even see it with ourselves, right? Like, we no longer even take it at face value that there might be some truth to what they're saying. We've seen pushback now from the National Rifle Association, from Gun Owners of America, basically saying you should be able to exercise your First and Second Amendment rights without being shot by federal law enforcement officers. At the same time, you are still hearing Republicans say they want these immigration laws enforced. If you have them on the books, someone needs to enforce them. And a lot of them are blaming the protesters for putting themselves into these situations that are clearly going to be very dangerous.
So, and Rachel, you heard Senator Klobuchar. Yeah. I mean, she's going to oppose this funding bill in Congress. How are Democrats able to respond?
So, look, Democrats right now are carefully trying to figure out a way, like they have been for everything that the Trump administration has been doing, to protest, to put up a stand. And so, right now, we are easing into potentially another partial government shutdown. Democrats are saying they're going to potentially block this Homeland Security bill, but even top Democrats in the House, Rosa DeLauro, have said that this is going to hurt other agencies. It's going to hurt FEMA. It's going to hurt TSA agencies because a lot of the funding for ICE has already been allocated. So right now, Senate Democrats are going to have to decide whether or not this is worth it. Last time we saw them, drag this out, but they didn't get their key to man overall.
Rob, something's going wrong, right? I mean, if we have a situation where, again, another American citizen with no criminal record is gunned down in the streets of Minneapolis, something's not working.
Clearly a tragedy, John. And I'll say that, as you've heard from President Trump and Vice President Vance, they pin the blame on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey because they say, why won't they cooperate with federal officials? And in many cases, they looked at examples of our history when people like Jefferson Davis or George Wallace resisted the federal government and things that they were doing. President Trump was elected with the promise that he would ramp up immigration enforcement in this country. Elections have consequences, and I think that's what the administration keeps coming back to. And they say, let's cool those temperatures, Donna, but let's also do so in a way that we can cooperate between federal and local officials.
Rob, but let me just say this. These agents are barely trained. They're supposedly getting trained for 47 days because they wanted to have 47 after the president. That's crazy. Number two, they're not identified. I mean, they're walking around like they're hooded, thugs. Why don't they identify themselves? Why don't they work with the local officials? The Minneapolis Police Department said, we want to work. These cities are saying, like they did under Obama, like they did under Bush, work with the city and state officials.
But Minnesota's a sanctuary state. How when you have policies in place like
because
that?
Because those policies existed in previous administrations, and yet you can work with the state and local government. But when you go into schools and rip children apart, use children as bait. When you go into churches, and you're
this is why more Americans,
that's what it is,
today,
it's un-American.
More Americans identify as an independent than a Republican or a Democrat for the first time in American history. And this is why, because no one actually believes that either side believes what they're saying. Look, honestly, if Barack Obama's federal officers had killed a member of the Tea Party who had shown up, who had a concealed carry permit, who had been disarmed before he was shot, that would not be what the right is saying. And frankly, The left was all for big executive power, as long as it was Joe Biden. They're not no kings. They just don't like this king. If you actually want to do something about these problems, both sides need to actually say presidents shouldn't have this power, the federal government shouldn't have this power. But like Rob said, this is the federal government versus the states, and we've already agreed, I guess, on that balance, and here we are. And this shooting looks very different than the last one, very different legally as well.
I want to get to that in a second. First, let's take a look at the video. This is video obtained by DropSite News showing the struggle and the shooting. I mean, first of all, we get that initial push of a woman.
That's what.
I mean, a really, and that's what you see Alex Pretty going to, like, her aid. And if you watch, we've done a frame-by-frame analysis of this video. It looks like Alex Pretty, there's no evidence that he ever reached for his gun. It looks like he was disarmed before he was shot.
Disarmed before he was shot. He was an ICU nurse. He's gone, you know, and of course the administration runs out. He's a terrorist. No, he's an American citizen trying with his First Amendment right. He was filming these ICE agents. And by the way, Border Patrol should not be in our cities. They should be at the border. They don't know what the hell they're doing in our cities. They should work with local officials. But he was trying to help somebody who was taken to the ground. And for that, he was executed.
Okay, let's get to where you were going on this, Sarah. Our understanding has been that a federal officer on the job cannot be criminally prosecuted in state courts. But there's a possible exception.
That is true, and in the good case, what I said was there was really no chance that Minnesota authorities were going to be able to charge the officers involved in that. The exception is if something is so egregious, so outside reasonable conduct by an officer, that it would be outside of their official duties. Here, where you have an unarmed man with a concealed carry permit, and they shoot him 10 times, mostly in the back, we are now in that area where Minnesota authorities actually could be on more solid ground to charge this.
Rachel, I want to show you what the assistant U.S. attorney, one of the U.S. attorney in California, Trump-appointed assistant U.S. attorney, had to say about this. We have this on the screen. If you approach law enforcement with a gun, there is a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you. Don't do it. What did the NRA have to say about that?
Well, the NRA came out and said that was dangerous and wrong. And I want to read to our viewers just what they said. Responsible public voices should be awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens. I mean, that is pretty strong. That's as strong as it gets coming from the NRA, criticizing basically what the Republican message is. And when we're talking about the politics of this, yes, absolutely. You have Trump voters who supported the president and this effort. But when it comes to independent investigations, that is getting people upset on both sides.
Rob's Second Amendment?
Sure. I mean, that, as Sarah indicated earlier, I mean, you had the gun rights groups come out very strongly yesterday defending the right of individuals to have concealed carry permits. And so I think that will certainly play a factor into this. But ultimately, it comes back, John, at the end of the day, will Governor Walz decide to lower the temperature?
All right.
Or will he?
President
We'll be back.